Hi, here I am. My English is not so good, so now you will listen robot voice, but this is what I wanted you to know. For me, it is important, very important. I'm looking for a brother of mine that I had never known in Germany. So now listen what the robot say reading this. Okay, one moment. Here it is.
My father, although he was Italian, however, made the Normandy landings, because he was with the American army. In practice he was taken into captivity by the Americans in 1942, and then the armistice of General Badoglio arrived, and then many soldiers Italians, who were in captivity in North Africa, became collaborators with the American army, and my father was also promoted to sergeant major, and to all intents and purposes in the American army. So after a few months, who was in North Africa, he was then moved to England, where he had the opportunity to show his high qualities of keeping the military dormitories in order, and this happened, because the other Italian soldiers, who were under his orders, esteemed him a lot, because my father behaved with them, in a friendly way, and even invented a method, that if the militaries under his orders had worked with a 12-hour shift in a row, then they would have had 2 consecutive days of freedom, or rather free exit, and he also invented the radio alarm clock, in the sense that in the morning, instead of making wake up the military with the trumpet, he had put many loudspeakers in the dormitories, and at 6:00 a.m. the loudspeaker were broadcasting rock roll music, from American radios, and everyone got up more willingly, and it was around 1944 or early 1945 when radio wake-up were not invented yet. Now it happened, that the historic moment came, to make the Normandy landings, and my father was among these soldiers, who were stationed in England, and therefore was part of the historic landing, and therefore gradually, as they liberated France, Belgium, Holland, they also came to liberate a part of Germany, and it was the part where scientists such as von Braun were too. German scientists had begun to collaborate with the American troops, and here's what happened. My dad was 25 years old, and during his free trips, he got engaged, and it happened that he got engaged in England, in Belgium, and also happened in Germany, and got engaged, with the wife of the partner of the physicist von Braun, who was also a physicist and engineer. Getting engaged to a married woman in Northern Europe was not entirely unusual, at least in that period of terrible war where even feelings were amplified. It then happened that the American army began to leave Germany, after the war had finally been won, and it was around the middle or the end of 1945, and then again my father had to separate from his German girlfriend. Her name was Elisabeth or Elisabeth, I think I remember this, from the stories my father often told me. It happened that the evening when the American army took all its soldiers on trucks to transfer them, it happened that it was evening, and it was raining a lot, and the square was illuminated by very strong military headlights. So while my father was getting ready to get on one of the trucks, which would take him back to Italy, here came Elisabetta, with a very luxurious car, and Elisabetta, she got out of the car and the umbrella to shelter her from the rain. It was held by her husband, the engineer and physicist and partner of von Braun. Elisabeth was crying a lot, while her husband was trying to shelter her from the rain, and they approached my father, and Elisabeth kissed and hugged my father, with a lot of that passion, which is rarely seen in movies, and the extraordinary thing is, that not only Elisabetta and my father cried heartily, with strong sobs, because history was separating them, but also the engineer and husband of Elisabetta, who was present there, also cried a lot. This is the true civilization of the Northern European peoples. Engineer Elisabetta's husband was crying, because his loved wife was sad, because the man she loved was leaving, probably forever. And I believe, that this, on the part of a husband, is the greatest act of love, that is, sharing in the sadness of his beloved wife. Unfortunately, history, was taking its course, and my father and Elisabetta had to say goodbye, and my father returned to Italy. Now it happened, that when that is the one who is writing, so when I was about 20 years old, there was a rumor in my father's country, that my father had a son with Elisabeth in Germany, and that is why I wrote all this, because I want to find my German brother, who should have been born between 1944 or the end of 1945, and only now it occurred to me, to do this research, thanks to the power of YouTube. If any of you, who are German or American, and therefore knew a gentleman, born around the time 1944/45/46, whose mother was called Elisabeth or Elisabetta, and whose father was a physicist or an engineer, that he was a partner of von Braun, and if his mother had ever told him, of a love story she lived with an Italian soldier, and the name of the Italian soldier, that is my father, here, his name was Luigi or Louis, and that Elisabetta also had other children when she met my father, this could help to better track my German brother. Here, if this brother of mine really exists, and if he was still alive, or if there are people who have known him, then let me know by writing to the email you find here in my YouTube channel. In the descriptions you will find the fundamental reference points if you have not had the patience to get this far. Thanks a lot, and I look forward to news and true and verifiable.
That's all. So, I don't know if I write well. Von Braun, the physicist that invented the bomb H. So, I wanted to let you know this history that my father always told me from when I was 16 years old. He started to tell me this history that he really lived. So, let me know if you are German, if you are American, or if you have knew my father, but maybe the son of the person that have known my father, because my father in this moment would have 1003 years old. So maybe someone else in Germany knew this history, and let me know if you know my brothers, if he exists, if he's still alive. I wanted to know him. That's all. Thanks so much.